Once again, I repeat, why referent is important? Why referent perception is important? Come on. Why referent perception is the ultimate and the most critical? Why?
Because referent perception creates that mental impression about something, and that mental impression will define your approach towards that something.
Exactly. Yeah. 1, 2. Why referent perception is so critical? I would say ultimately critical. Why?
And each one's referent perception will be different, and how drastically it is different about one particular thing can be the cause of many conflicts.
2, 3, go on.
So the mental impression of that particular thing, the description, the concept sense, the description of that particular thing.
It helps to understand the invariant of something.
I'm a little surprised.
Referent perception helps to identify the simplest and fundamental nature of whatever is being talked about.
Exactly. That is why I told you just before, the entire world is nothing but a huge, vast assemblage of whatever. They're all, each one of them is a referent. Each one of them can be considered a referent. It can vary from a single subatomic particle to the very planet Earth. It can range from a simple, what you call, pin, a safety pin, to huge satellites. It can vary from a simple fountain pen to the ultimate robot. It can vary from a single blade of grass in the nature to huge forests. It can vary from a single particle of soil to huge mountains. Whatsoever under your observation, whether you observe it or not also, they are all considered reference. They are all considered reference, at least for this methodology to look at the world. Because the world is full of reference, including every one of you. Every human being is a referent too. Right now, this whatever is going on, this interaction is also a referent when we talk about that. This has been told so many times. Okay. Now, once again, we will come the other way around. The entire world is now run by languages. Okay. Language to begin with. The child calling mother, Amma. To that child grows and develops into a unique scholar, having learned the entire history of the world, or entire philosophy of the world, or entire physics, chemistry, or maths, or whatever. They are all languages. And in the language is nothing but an assemblage of words or terms, and every term is just a name. So language is not at all real. Reference are the real. That's why reference are critical, and that's why referent perception is ultimate. This has been told many times. Why it is not registered already very clear to you? The word referent is confusing. Okay, what is the meaning of the word referent? That which is referred to by a word. What is your mental impression about a referent? It could be anything. This has been told so many times. Why is it still confusing? Tell me openly. Is it confusing?
No, sir.
No.
Just something very simple. Because the name is not the thing. The language you talk is just, I don't know, only human beings are living in this world of language. What are the references with which human beings are dealing? Very much less, very much limited. An average educated person deals with how many references a day? Come on. All right. Look at the physical space. So he lives in, or his body is placed on a bed. Okay. So he gets up to the ground. That ground, that floor of the house, is it a reference? Is it a reference? The floor of the house, is it a reference?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Okay. He puts in the chapel, slippers,
Yeah.
is it a reference?
Yes,
Yes.
sir.
He is walking a reference?
Yes.
He is walking
Yes.
and goes to the bathroom. Is bathroom a reference?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
He takes the what called toothbrush. It is a reference. He turns on the tap. Tap is a referent of the word tap. That physical thing called brush is the referent of the brush. Then he comes back, sits on a chair. See, in that languages you comprehended. But do you see all those things? That is the need of referent perception. That only will take you to the truth. Genius is about knowing the truth, Tintin. Truth is with the reference, not at all with any language uttered by anybody. Even if the very God comes before you and talk to you, that talked words are not the truth. The truth is whatever is referred to by those words. Okay. Is it so difficult to get this angle of observation?
No.
No.
Words, language is so easy because language is the most trained only one behavior of human being. From a beggar or an idiot on the road to the greatest philosopher in the topmost university, they're all more or less equally good in normal conversational language. They're all moving with the mental impression of the words, not at all with the reference. The world is divided by language, by naming things. Certain territory is named China, certain territory is named Pakistan, certain territory is named United States, certain territory is named India. And then these territories are perceived from the angle of those words. That is the tragedy of the world. That's the tragedy of humanity. Being just victims of languages. All the divisions in the world are defined by the words. This we have told so many times. All religions are differing only because of the language of those religions. So, genius is about getting detached, getting transcending language. The so-called bloody self you are all talking about, is it a language? Your self is a language? Your experience is a language? Your feeling is a language? Your emotions are a language?
No.
Then so if you want to get to so-called enlightenment, enlightenment is a language. Do you want to get the word enlightenment or you want to get the experience of enlightenment, Meenakshi? Why you are so silent? Why you don't you talk? When I asked about what is referent, why referent perception is ultimate, why you don't talk back?
I had the answer at the first instance, but I kept quiet.
What is the referent of what you said?
That I understood the answer.
What you are talking about, if even now, the referent of words. Okay. If it is so complicated for you to get into the referent of words, how will we proceed on to understanding the referent of ideas, huge ideas of a paragraph? Ideas in so-called Upanishads or Gita or Patanjali or something? Okay. To what extent, I want to know, to what extent your perception is solidly resting on referent perception? When you read
Entirely.
something, when you hear something. To what percentage?
Maybe 70%.
What about you, Tintin?
Tintin, you're on mute.
Thanks. I did not notice it was. With reading, it's more or less spontaneous. With talking or discussions, it becomes mostly a postmortem.
Beautifully said. All right. Okay. That's quite clear because talking is a little faster because language can be just delivered very fast. Once upon a time, there was a monastery in Japan. You take only 3 seconds. But to mentally project a monastery, it may take a minimum 3 minutes. So your usage of the word postmortem is beautiful, exactly. So you do it, not necessarily with every sentence. But that should be your basic character of your intellect. That's what we are talking. You don't have to see the referent of, I would say, at least 80% of the normal conversation or normal languages that you read. But in order to proceed very clearly and firmly into the realities of the so-called mind of you, so-called self of you, you have to get rid of the words. As soon as I say the word self, your attention should be hovering around, trying to be focusing around whatever your self is. How will you ever understand, get a solid feeling of your identity, so-called self? What is the word self? Now you will know the word self doesn't mean anything, doesn't convey anything, doesn't give you any solid perception at all. Almost everybody in the world is using the word self. What the hell they mean by that? They're all very peripheral beings, my dear friends. They're all worms, I would say. They are all worms of human beings. Because of the facilities developed by creative people, because of the facilities devised by enterprising people, systems have been developed, housing has been developed, roads have been developed, vehicles have been developed, offices and organizations and institutions have been developed, education system is developed, subjects have been mugged up, coolies are required to work there, and everybody is doing a job, getting the money. They also construct houses, get married, create children, and they all feel fulfilled. Okay, nothing wrong about that. That's okay. This program is not about that. This program is about what you call reaching that the purpose, the very purpose of why you are here. What difference it will make for you. Just a curiosity to know the fundamentals of existence of the very you. And they are all reality, they are all reference. They are not words. We are all happy because we are all conditioned to feel good about knowing some languages, that's all. The other day we were talking about I. How many of you continue to reflect? All of you use the word I. Can you say what you refer to by the word I? Now you have at least a different understanding. That is the simple, most very frequent, universal example that all human beings are just peripheral little fellows. That they use the word I and me and my so often and die for that and kill for that and hate people. What all are going on in this world? It's all because of lack of clarity of the I and the me and the my. Why the so-called suffering? All the religions are based on suffering. Why human beings are so-called suffering? It is because of they are all trapped by words. That is why they are suffering. Not because of anything. There cannot be any suffering. That sufferings are all generated by words of thought process, words of communication, words of thinking. That is why the suffering. All feelings of disappointment, worry, frustration, depression, these are all generated by words. Not by the reference, not by the referent realities, not at all. That's why referent reality perception is ultimate and very critical. And we are going much more clear, much more closer to reference. I think we have to change the word referent. Okay. Reality, is that comfortable? Why we use the word referent? Because we have been beginning with the language. That's why we use the word referent. We use the word referent because everything is already named now. Including the so-called God is named. Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, Yehovah, Allah, Killa, all every damn thing in this world is named. And those names refer to something. Therefore, we use the concept of reference. That's all. See, the millions of people are just happy with the words. This we discussed the other day. Oh my God, which God? What is God? What is the referent of God? Allah. What is the referent of Allah? People say, for example, oh Jesus. What is the referent of Jesus? Oh Krishna. What is the referent of Krishna? Guru Vairappa. What is the referent of Guru Vairappa? That silly, whatever gold statue in that temple? Who has seen Krishna? Who has seen Shiva? Who has seen Murugan? Who has seen Jehovah? Who has seen Krishna, what you call Buddha? Who has seen Jesus? Don't you understand, my dear friends, where the humanity is? Don't you see that humanity is nothing but a victim of ridiculous language and language and language only? China wants to be on top of the world. Driven by language. We want to be number one. What is the referent of being number one? Come on. I want to be the richest person. Come on. What is the referent of a richest person? Okay. $1 trillion in the bank. Okay. One. Okay. Huge corporate office. Okay. 2 million people, employees. Okay. Breakfast brought by a special helicopter from Italy. Dinner from Tashkent. Lunch from Tashkent. Dinner from Canada. Morning one suit. Afternoon another suit. Uses pen worth 20 lakh. Drinks liquor worth 20 lakh. Drives a gold-studded car worth 20 crores. Has a plane with gold worth $200 million. All right. Okay. Now, what is that person feeling? It is the mind. It's a language. Yes, I am the richest person. There's a language running. I am driving a $20 million car. Language running. I am living in a 2,500 acre ranch. Running. I have $200 trillion in my bank. Language running. But he will eat the same quantity of food. He will sit in the morning. He will sleep in the night. And he will have sex. What more? His body also will feel pain. He will also have dysentery if the food is wrong. He will have also constipation if the food is wrong. He will also feel depressed if a little thing happens. He will also feel crying if something happens to him. And he will also face his death as an ordinary person. What difference it makes? In his thought, he thinks that I am the richest. That's all. He cannot eat gold. He cannot eat Rolls-Royce car. The president of China, okay, People's Communist Party of China, they want to become the top in the world. For what? Only for that thought and the thought-generated feeling. In which way you know that the feeling of Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg or whatever Chinese president is anyway different from the feeling of a local leader who feels elected? So, what is the fundamental action? I think, therefore I am. So, they are all thinking. That's all. I am the topmost in the world. I am the CEO of the world. That thought is continuously running in their mental program. That's all. But there will also be equally victims of all the emotional worries and problems and conflicts, unless they are at the level of genius, which we are talking about. So genius is about being in tune with the truth of existence. Genius is about being unperturbed in whatever variations of life. Variance. Genius is about being invariant despite all variance in existence. Coming back. So variance. Everything in this world is a variant. That's the definition of a variant. Everything. You take any item in the world, maybe except maybe Ramesh or engineers may know. A piece of carbon particle may not vary. Okay? Diamond also do not vary, right? All right. But still, the subatomic particles of diamond are continuously varying from particle to wave. That's all. So variance, everything is a variance. This also, these are all fundamental principles. Like referent perception is the fundamental requirement for creative language control and to sense the truth of things and phenomena and episodes and people. Now, this also should be a framework that everything is a variant. Because everything will vary. That pen which Tintin showed, I said I know why you said it as an invariant. We will come to that. That is a variant because primarily that is one of the 1,000 pens of that kind, Tintin. If that was the only one pen of its kind in the world, then we'll talk some other word. That's all. In other words, every referent is a variant. Okay. Look at the nature process. What all variants are there? Every blade of grass is a variant. Every leaf is a variant. Every tree is a variant. Every every soil particle is a variant. Every rock is a variant. Everything in the nature is a variant because it varies from today to tomorrow, from this minute to next minute. Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
I didn't understand the point you said about there being 1,000 pens similar to Tintin's pen. How is that correlated? I didn't understand, sir. Could you please explain?
Out of 1,000 pens of that kind, those 1,000 pens are variants of that particular brand of that particular design, Ashwati. Right? Now, there's 1,000 items are there, like that pen. Therefore, it is one of the variants of that pen. Point number one. Point number two, after 6 months, that pen would look totally different. It may have a little more bruises, it may look a little more that much older, etc., etc., etc. Maybe after 10 years, that pen may dissipate into some carbon or some plastic recycling plant and take some other form, for instance. No? So, when I say everything in this nature is a variant, we are beginning with the nature process. Okay? Nature, we will proceed in 3 domains of variance. Domain number 1, the nature. Nature meaning the planet Earth. Okay? Domain number 2, what is if nature or planet Earth things are domain 1, what is domain 2? Come on. Participate, otherwise you will go to half sleep mode. What is domain 2? If nature is domain 1, what is domain 2?
Man-made things.
Of course, man-made
Existence,
things.
yeah.
Then what is domain 3?
What is domain 2?
Man-made things.
Man-made things.
Okay.
Then what is domain 3?
Man-made concepts.
No, that all come under man-made.
Okay, no, by things I meant physical objects. Okay.
Imagination. Imaginatory objects and worlds.
They all come under man-made. What is the third domain?
So what about the human beings themselves?
Exactly. Third domain is that human entity, every one of you.
I have a doubt.
Yeah, what is that?
So, in the first domain of the earth, aren't human beings already involved?
Uh, yeah, that's a very good question. We can go by that also, Mandra. Okay.
Yeah, that
But,
makes logical sense
uh,
because
but yeah, because that will include human beings. But
yeah,
inside every human being, there's a huge world, Mandra. Look at the human being. Look at the experience of that human being. Okay, till about age 3, 4, 5, nothing may be recollected. But look at the varied experiences that human being undergoing. Look at the varied emotions. Look at the varied knowledges. Look at the varied competencies. Okay, look at the variations. Remember, we talked about the five what you call components of a human being: expressions, responses, behaviors. Once again. 1. Expressions. 2. Responses. 3. Behaviors. 4. Actions. 5. Relationships. 6. Language or communication. These are all variants. These are all variants and these are all subject to variation. The way you express, the way of your expressions 10 years back, that is not the way of expressions now. Your expression right now on your face will vary after 5 minutes. See? So, if there is an opportunity to look at the human, individual human domain, one of the things from this. Okay. So, look at those very full of variants. See, the nature, or let us say, be a little more clear. The surface of planet Earth. Okay, we can know only the surface. So, the planet Earth is full of variants. variants. See, look at that sentence. Very clear to you now. Mental impressions created by that sentence is very clear. Get the point. But look at the reference of that sentence. Will we ever be able to cover referent perception? No. But we can have a quick survey depending upon the speed of your imagination, depending upon the speed of your attention. You can have a quick survey. Look at the varied terrains. Look at the variations or variants of soil structures. Look at the variants of whatever grass on the surface of the soil. Look at the variants of the little plants. Look at the huge amount of variants of small trees. Look at the variants of big trees. Look at the variants of stones, ranging from jewels to black, dark, tough rocks, including marbles and all kinds of rocks, variants of rocks alone. Look at the variants of other projections on the surface of planet Earth. Little man-made little projections to hills, to mountain ranges. Look at the variants of rivers, from small rivulets to huge rivers. Look at the variants of ocean. Look at the variants of so many insects and birds and animals and all that. Look at the variants of rains and clouds and seasons. Can your imagination, can your internal projector be that powerful to get at least a general feel of all this assembly of what do you call But infinite of variants that comprise planet Earth. Have a view. That is the advantage. Like the other day I mentioned, little children are never taken to focus their attention on the huge vastness of the skies. Now, what will happen? Their senses will get what you call an explosion of perception. Instead, most children are contained within the four walls of the house, then to the car, or then to the playground, then to the little friends, and then to the classrooms. They have never seen a forest. They have never experienced a huge, vast forest. They have never experienced mountain tops. What is the advantage? That much of stimulation, that much of triggering of unexplainable things will happen that the world does not understand. Only that makes the geniuses. That makes the Socrates. We began by talking about Socratic thinking and Socratic questioning. Similarly, you try for a coming 5-6 days. Of course, there are so many things to try. Try to have a, like the reconnaissance aircraft we call. Have a view of the world from some 30,000 feet high. But with the telescopes to see the things in this planet Earth. Where is our perception? Right now, you just imagine for a moment, comparing the vastness of the infinitude of entities and things and terrains and the details of this planet Earth. Where is our perception of Earth? We talk about ecology, we talk about ecosystem, climate change, etc., but how many have a perception of the relative totality of all these variants? Look at the seasons. Seasons are variants. Human perception cannot see. If the seasons come, let us say in 1 week, today winter, tomorrow summer, then you can. We talked about leadership. We began with the leadership and genius. It took us the vastness, what we call wider perspective, to become a real leader. Like right now, we have a moment of experience for trying to capture the totality of the planet Earth. What was the size of planet Earth? Can you ever project the possible, probable size of planet Earth? Okay, leave it. Okay. In this planet Earth, like Mandra Rishti has said, forget about the internal human domain. How many people, how many human beings you can contain in your screen projection? 100? 1,000? 2,000? 2 lakh? 20 lakh? Can you project the referent of that variant of 100 human beings standing somewhere? 1,000 human beings? Can you see the human beings that comprise this country? What is the referent of India? For example, what is the referent of India?
Many reference.
Yeah. It's a composite of interminable, uncountable reference. We will begin systematically. Okay. So many so-called state. What is the referent of a state? What is the referent of what we call states? Do you see? Everybody in this country can comprehend India, state, South India, North India, all this they can easily understand. They are all talking. But what is the referent of South India? What is the referent of North India? What is the referent of Delhi? What is the referent of Punjab? What is the referent of Tamil Nadu? What is the referent of Maharashtra? What is the referent of Mumbai? What is the referent of Chennai? See? So all the words are like that only for the so-called majority human mindsets to talk about. That's all. Just to talk about. I am going to Chennai. That's all. Somebody say, I am going to US. Can anybody go to United States? Nobody can. Because US is the name given to that many area of land. They are going to maybe landing in Seattle airport and then going to Los Angeles by another flight and landing in a 3 square feet area and walking where the legs are taking them or traveling in a particular car. And that particular car going through a particular road, reaching a particular house and staying there in a particular room of that house. And next day morning going to the particular market and buying some food and eating and getting another car and going to the office and sitting in one chair in that one room, interacting maybe with 5 people or 50 people in 1 month of time. Is that United States?
No.
That's all. Now, do you see the universe of difference between language and reality? Or language and reference? Now onwards, I am not going to use the word reference. Reality. Okay? The chair is real. That wooden thing or a plastic thing or steel thing or whatever that upon which you are sitting is the reality of the word chair. Okay? That thing was also called the referent of the English word CHIR. That's all. Is that clear?
Yes,
All
sir.
right. All right. And every point of reality, every item of reality is a variant. We will come to that. Now let us finish. Now that is the huge assembly of realities or reference or items in the planet Earth. Now the second domain, like Meenakshi said, the so-called man-created things. Oh, what do you think? Beginning with the historical stone tools created by the primitive man. Every tool is a variant. Every stone tool was a variant. Okay. Look at the huge assembly of variants that man created in this world, from that stone tool to the modern assault rifle or AK-47 or machine gun or whatever. That ancient, so-called little wooden structure on the treetop to the modern palace of the, British Queen or Pentagon or the headquarters of Google or the Parliament building of India or Pentagon or whichever. Every one of them is a variant. And we have a purpose. For what? Can anybody fill in this word? We have a purpose in
Being variant.
what?
There's a purpose in being variant.
Oh, anyway, you are coming close. We have purpose in naming every one of them a variant. That you will discover later. So that is my methodology. The end conclusion will be at the end. We will not begin by definitions. All conventional classrooms begin with the definition. We have a purpose. That's why we name it variant. Like we had a purpose to name everything as a referent in order to invite your attention, or in order to, let us say, in order for you to liberate your intellect, in order to liberate your memory, that troubling, ridiculous, punishing memory of you, which are nothing but defined by language, to the reference of that. The language of memory which is troubling you, which happened 10 years back. The referent of that memory happened 10 years back. Even now, the verified memory of that is troubling you. Am I right? That's all. The yesterday is completely over.
Yes.
You are right now, you are in the referent of whatever Indian Standard Time, you are sitting there. Of course, your wife or husband or children or whoever is also there, agreed. But the referent reality is that they are right now there. So look at the man-created variants. The varied types of objects or things. The varied types of systems. Systems of cooking or system of agriculture, local group management or warfares or whatever. Varied procedures. Sit there and one day try to list down what are the different categories of man-created variants are there.
We did an assignment on it.
And that was a general classification, of course.
Yeah.
So what all things have a bird's eye view, have a moment, we are all responsible. We have that internal ethics to be justified in existence in this planet Earth. It is like you are given a Mercedes-Benz car and you never bloody drive it beyond 40 kilometers per hour to something like that. The most wonderful neuronal system is under our custody. The most wonderful imagination and visualization and reflection and creative analytical thinking is under our custody. And what the hell the great majority of the people are doing with that? Are we one of them? Would you like to be one of them? That's all. Look at the what you call it, uncountable number of, for example, houses. Every house is a variant. Everything that you touch is a variant. Everything that you come across is a variant, because that is one of the many things. Point number one. Point number two, that will definitely vary. That will definitely change. But our human perception, which is very limited, our sense data is very, very, very narrow, so that we will know that something has been varied only when a major change is noticed, only when a critical turning point happens. Till then, no variations are perceived. And by unconscious instincts, human beings are really scared of variation, because the ultimate of variation is death.
Yeah.
Human beings are kind of trained with the neurosis of being afraid of death, trained with the obsessive compulsion to live forever. That is the by which the fundamental, the evil people in the world have defined a God, and what you call immortality is guaranteed. Be in the good books of God. Wonderful human beings are all trained to be afraid, to be fearful. All fundamental fears somehow anchored the fear of death. The end of variation is death. The end of variation is disappearance. The end of variation is atrophy. I am telling you, I have told this bloody planet Earth also, one day it will just become like moon, inert. No doubt about that. If there was some material by which I can etch this, I would have done that. This so-called planet Earth will just become inert like moon one day. No doubt about that. All these plants and trees will disappear because it is a variant. Planet Earth also is a variant. Everything in this whole universe is a variant. It is undergoing variation. Every human being is a variant from the fertilized egg to the dying body. Every moment the mind is vary, but that variation is controlled by some languages. Everything is a variant. Every pen is a variant. Okay. Look at, okay, every cup, every man-made thing is a variant. Okay, the other things were not created by human beings, but they are all variants. Plants are variants, trees are variants, seasons are variants, rocks are variants, everything is a variant. Man-created things are also variants, because nothing in this universe can escape from that, that fundamental truth of variation, the principle of variation. So variant meaning, the second point is the principle of variation, the universal truth of variation. Everything will vary. This is told by other people. In other words, the normal word, change, everything will change. People say change is the only unchangeable thing and all that. That is in a different peripheral context. They are talking about some other change. But it's very difficult to see everything as a variant. Because right now, the chair with which you are sitting, it looks like in the beginning, now we are entering into invariant. It looks not that much varying now. The chair upon which you are sitting, that may remain there more or less in the same way for another 6 months or 6 years. Therefore, this variation is normally not within the range of attention. Is it possible to have that fundamental angle of vantage point of observing the world, that everything is a variant, variation is a universal principle? So that is to be actually what we are trying to create, that mind setting, that body setting, that intellect setting of a genius, of a mystic. What is a mystic? The one who sees the truth. That is the mystic. When you get firmly installed in that perception, in that angle of observing the existence as full of variation, that is every one of you is a variant, Tintin. Like that single pen is one of the variants of millions of possible probable pens. Every one of you is a variant of the human species. Got it? One of the variants. Tintin is one of the variants of human species. Nitya is one of the variants. Vinay is one of the variants. Mantra Rishi is one of the variants. Ramesh Manikim is one of the variants. Meenakshi is, Parvati is, Ashwati is, Ganesh is, Amaya is, myself, Veena, we are all variants. One of the variants of the human being. Point number one. Point number two, whether our mind varies or intellect varies or not, this body is continuously undergoing variation. Okay. And like Parvati said, the environment is continuously, not that continuously, because we are all stable. If we were in a forest, the forest environment is actually continuously varying. But our environment, modern environment are like Siddha Prajna, they are all stabilized. Your house is at a certain place. You have to live in that house. You have a room in that house. You have a particular bed in that house. So that variations are controlled. Human beings are in general not comfortable with variations. So everything is stabilized. Everything is kept more or less. We will come to the next point. Invariant. Relatively invariant. So Parvati, in between you put in that point. Despite all these variations of the body and the kind of the mind, contents of the mind meaning emotions and the contents, and despite variations in the knowings or intellectual processes and the results of that intellectual process, despite variations in the environment meaning what? Environment of people, environment of work, environment of actually like now virus is there, physical environment, there could be terrible rain, there could be tsunamis, there could be earthquake, or despite all these variations, the central you in you, the one which we discussed the other day, you are not there. That you, that I in you will remain stable. To understand the truth of existence, we don't need any of these things. We don't need any Upanishads, any Vedanta, any philosophy, nothing. Referent reality perception is enough to know the truth of existence. And they have come to these Upanishads, all these things, because of their referent reality perception only. We can also look at the reference. We can also see the variance and the relative invariance of them.